What if I told you that your emotional peace has never been in someone else's hands? That it's not about what others say or do, not even about how much they try to hurt you? Imagine a life where you could be completely at peace, regardless of the chaos around you. Sounds impossible, right? But it's not. But it's the result of an internal shift, a shift that Stoic philosophers taught centuries ago, which is still incredibly relevant today. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, it's so easy to feel like our peace depends on others, whether it's a friend's approval, a boss's praise, or the validation of strangers on the internet. We react impulsively, letting external events dictate our inner world. But here's the twist. True strength lies in the ability to remain unaffected by these external factors. Let me take you on a journey not through abstract philosophical ideas, but through practical, real-world insights that can help you reclaim your peace, your power, and your emotional freedom. We'll explore some powerful tools shaped by Stoic thought that can guide us in leading calmer, more deliberate lives. Let's dive into how you can stop being a puppet to your emotions and start responding with intention. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the content or find it helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. It's the best way to stay updated and support the channel. Now let's get started. The Stoic foundation: control what you can, accept what you can't. We all have moments when external events feel like they've taken control of our emotions, when a rude comment or a misunderstanding leads to a cascade of frustration or anger. But here's where the first piece of Stoic wisdom comes into play. We cannot control other people's actions, but we can control our reactions. The Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, believed that the path to emotional freedom is rooted in the understanding that we are not victims of our emotions. Anger, frustration, sadness, they're not caused by others, but by our internal response to events. The Stoic response? To pause, examine, and choose how to react rather than simply reacting impulsively. Imagine a scenario. You've been working hard for weeks on a project at work. You're proud of the results, ready to present your ideas. But just before the meeting, your boss points out an error that you missed. You feel the heat rise in your chest. It's frustrating. Your first impulse might be to lash out in defense, or maybe you feel embarrassed and defeated. But if you take a step back, if you choose to pause, you might recognize that the mistake doesn't define you. It's a moment of growth, not failure. This is where the magic of Stoicism happens. You shift the narrative. You can choose to feel defeated, or you can choose to learn and improve. It's all about control, not the control over others, but the control over how you interpret and respond to life's challenges. One of the most powerful Stoic exercises is the daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius would write down his thoughts each day, contemplating how he reacted to the world around him. He didn't shy away from his emotions, but he examined them, learning from each experience. This habit of reflection is something that can transform our approach to life, leading us to more deliberate, mindful responses rather than knee-jerk reactions. Think about your own life. When was the last time you reacted without thinking? Maybe it was a family argument, a frustrating customer, or an incident on the road. Next time that happens, pause. Step outside of the situation and reflect. What was really at the core of my reaction? Did I truly need to respond in anger, or was there another way to handle it? The power of silence. Strength in restraint. How many times have you felt compelled to respond immediately in a conversation or an argument? Maybe someone challenges your beliefs, insults you, or questions your actions. The immediate reaction is to defend, to counter, to prove you're right. But what if I told you that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all? This concept of silence isn't about passivity or avoidance. It's about power under control. Think about it. How often do we regret something we said in anger? but rarely regret the times we've chosen to stay silent. The Stoics were firm believers that emotional control, particularly in difficult situations, is a measure of strength, not weakness. Take a moment to think about a time when you were insulted or wronged. Your initial instinct might have been to retaliate, to win the argument, or to correct the person who hurt you. But what happens when you bite your tongue, when you resist the urge to escalate? Silence in these moments is more than just withholding words. It's about giving yourself the space to respond with wisdom, not impulse. By resisting the urge to speak in the heat of the moment, you take control over your emotional state, rather than allowing your emotions to take control of you. Here's an example from a real-life situation. Consider two co-workers in a tense meeting. One is passionate about their idea and dismisses the other's contribution. The second co-worker feels disrespected, angry even. The first reaction might be to fire back, to prove their point, or to make the other person feel bad. But instead, they take a deep breath, remain composed, and wait for the right moment to respond. In the end, they speak calmly, offering a constructive critique rather than a defensive jab. The first person leaves the room feeling like they've won the argument. But in reality, the second co-worker has won something far more valuable: their peace, their dignity, and their emotional self-control. The beauty of silence is that it doesn't just benefit you in the moment. Over time, this restraint builds emotional maturity and clarity. The Stoics taught that the truly wise person isn't the one who argues the loudest, but the one who can hold their peace amidst the chaos. Next time you feel the urge to react quickly, pause, resist the temptation to engage right away. Instead, use the silence as a space to reflect, to choose how you want to respond, and to remember that peace comes from within, not from winning the battle of words. Anger, a mirror, not a weapon. Anger. It's one of the most powerful and instinctive emotions we feel. In an instant, it can take over, clouding our judgment, escalating conflicts, and leaving us with regret. But what if I told you that anger is not your enemy, but a mirror? A mirror that reflects unresolved emotions, beliefs, and expectations that lie beneath the surface. When we get angry, it's easy to point the finger at the person or situation that triggered it. We often think, they made me angry. But here's the twist. Anger isn't caused by others, it's caused by the story we tell ourselves about them. When someone says something rude, or when things don't go as planned, it's not the event itself that makes us angry. It's the expectations we had, the mental script, that didn't line up with reality. Let me walk you through an example. Imagine a close friend cancels plans at the last minute. You were looking forward to spending time together, and now you're left feeling hurt and upset. Your anger rises and your mind starts creating a narrative. How could they do this? They don't care about me. I'm not important to them. But let's pause for a moment. What if the reason for their cancellation has nothing to do with you? What if they had their own struggles, their own reasons for changing their plans? What if they didn't even know how much it would affect you? The story we tell ourselves in these moments, whether it's about betrayal, neglect, or rejection, is often not entirely based in reality. This is where the Stoics step in. They teach us to challenge our assumptions, to ask ourselves, what was I expecting that didn't happen? Or what belief about myself or others just got threatened? A friend's cancellation is not about your worth. It's a situation that triggered a deeper feeling. It's an opportunity to look inward. Could it be that the anger is rooted in an unmet need? Maybe the need to feel valued or heard. Or maybe it's a result of past experiences where you were left hanging, causing this new situation to feel even worse. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Anger is a sign that something inside us needs attention. Instead of letting it control us, we can use it as an opportunity for self-reflection and growth. The next time anger arises, pause and trace it back to its root. Ask yourself, why am I so upset by this? Then, instead of acting out of impulse, use the opportunity to heal. Real emotional strength is not about suppressing anger or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about understanding it and allowing it to guide you toward greater emotional clarity. Self-reflection. The Stoic practice of examining our reactions. The Stoics believed that self-reflection was not just a passive activity, but an essential practice for emotional growth. It's through this reflection that we can begin to truly understand ourselves, our triggers, and the beliefs that shape our emotional responses. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them." This simple yet profound statement invites us to examine our beliefs, attitudes, and mental scripts. When we reflect on our reactions, we begin to uncover why certain events elicit specific emotional responses. Take anger, for example. The next time you feel your temper rising, try to step outside of the situation, almost like an observer. What story are you telling yourself in that moment? What expectation did you have, and how did the reality not meet that expectation? Let's consider a real-life situation. Have you ever been frustrated by a coworker who is constantly late to meetings? Perhaps you find yourself thinking, "They don't respect my time," or "they think they can get away with this." Now, instead of responding immediately with frustration or even passive-aggressive comments, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what belief is driving this frustration? Perhaps it's a need for respect, or maybe it's the fear of being taken advantage of. Once you uncover that belief, you can begin to challenge it. Is it true that this person doesn't respect you? Or could it be that they are dealing with their own challenges that are unrelated to you? Is your time more valuable than theirs? When you examine these questions, you start to see the situation from a wider perspective. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it allows you to shift from a reactionary mindset to a more measured, thoughtful one. Self-reflection gives you the power to reframe your emotional responses. Instead of being consumed by anger, disappointment, or frustration, you begin to act from a place of understanding and clarity. You might even find that many of the things you thought were personal attacks or slights are actually just misunderstandings or things that have nothing to do with you at all. This shift in perspective is a critical step in mastering your emotional state. The Stoics understood that true strength comes from within, and through self-reflection we learn how to cultivate that strength by becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves and the beliefs we hold. Next time you feel triggered, try this. Pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what belief is being challenged right now? You might be surprised by the clarity that comes when you examine your reactions instead of simply reacting. The wisdom of choosing your battles. Not everything deserves your energy. In our daily lives, we encounter countless situations that demand our attention. From conversations with co-workers to interactions with friends and family, we are constantly faced with choices. Do we engage or do we let it go? The Stoics were masters of discernment, teaching us that true strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. This wisdom is not about avoiding conflict or suppressing our emotions. It's about choosing our battles wisely. There's a simple yet powerful question that can guide us. Is this worth my energy? In other words, does this situation or person really deserve a piece of my emotional state? Consider a scenario where a friend casually makes a hurtful comment. It's easy to feel the sting and immediately react with a sharp comeback. But before you do, take a moment to ask yourself, what is this really about? Is this an attack on me, or is this something I can let slide? Often the desire to react comes from the ego, a need to protect our pride or prove ourselves right. But when we give in to that urge, we expend energy on things that don't actually matter. This emotional expenditure can drain us, leaving us with a sense of frustration or regret later on. The Stoic practice of apatheia, which refers to a state of inner peace, unaffected by external events, encourages us to step back and assess the situation with clarity. It's not about being indifferent or avoiding difficult conversations, but rather about understanding what truly warrants our time, energy, and emotional investment. A real-life example: imagine a situation where you receive a text from a colleague with a snarky comment about a project. You might feel anger bubbling up, thinking, "How dare they speak to me like that?" But here's the thing: what are you hoping to achieve by responding? Do you want to prove them wrong, or do you want to maintain peace within yourself? More often than not engaging is the most powerful response. This doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, but it means choosing not to let their behavior disrupt your inner calm. Instead of getting pulled into unnecessary drama, you can redirect your energy to things that actually matter: your work, your relationships, your growth. Choosing your battles is about being intentional with your emotional energy. Is the argument worth your peace? Or is there a higher purpose to which you can channel that energy? Remember, the Stoics didn't believe in avoiding all conflict. They just believed in engaging in the right conflicts for the right reasons at the right time. Gratitude: the silent power that transforms reactions. Gratitude is often seen as a simple, feel-good emotion. Yet, when viewed through the lens of Stoicism, it becomes much more than a pleasant state of mind. Gratitude is a tool, a powerful tool that can radically shift how we experience life's challenges. In fact, gratitude can be a reset button for our emotions, particularly in moments when we feel overwhelmed by negativity or frustration. Let's think about how we typically respond to difficult situations. When things go wrong, it's easy to get caught up in what we don't have, what's gone wrong, or what could have been better. But gratitude pulls us out of that mindset. It helps us focus on what is still good, what we can still be thankful for, and what remains intact, no matter the chaos around us. Here's a story that exemplifies this shift. A woman named Sarah had been struggling with her job for several months. She felt overworked, underappreciated, and burnt out. Every day felt like a battle, and she was constantly frustrated by things that weren't going right. One day, her mentor asked her a simple question: "What are you grateful for today?" Sarah was taken aback. She had been so focused on the problems, she hadn't stopped to reflect on the good things in her life. Sarah's mentor encouraged her to start a daily gratitude practice. Every morning, she was to write down 3 things she was grateful for, no matter how small. At first, it was hard. Sarah struggled to find anything beyond the usual: family, health, the roof over her head. But over time, she started noticing little moments of joy throughout her day: her co-worker's smile, a stranger holding the door open, a quiet moment of peace during her lunch break. As Sarah practiced gratitude, something amazing happened. Her perspective began to shift. She still faced challenges at work, but now she could handle them with a calm, clear mind. The things that used to upset her no longer had the same emotional grip on her. She had learned to choose where to focus her attention. This is the power of gratitude. When we actively look for things to be thankful for, we shift our energy from frustration, anger, or stress to something more positive and empowering. It's not about ignoring the challenges, but about refusing to let those challenges dominate our mental space. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Gratitude is the key to upgrading those thoughts. In moments when you feel angry or upset, try this simple practice. Pause, take a deep breath, and list 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something as small as the sun shining outside, or as big as a breakthrough in your personal or professional life. This practice doesn't just calm your mind, it rewires it, teaching you to focus on what you have rather than what you lack. So, What's the lesson here? Gratitude isn't just an emotion, it's a practice that can shift your entire perspective. It's a tool that can help you break free from the emotional storms that threaten your peace. By choosing to focus on what's good in your life, you gain the strength to move forward with clarity and purpose. The art of self-mastery. How emotional control builds resilience. Self-mastery is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. It's about becoming the master of your own reactions, thoughts, and emotions. The Stoics were not advocating for suppressing emotions or living in a robotic state of detachment. Rather, they taught that true freedom comes when we take control of how we respond to life. One of the most important aspects of self-mastery is recognizing that emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are simply signals. Our emotions, especially strong ones like anger, fear, and frustration, are signals that something within us needs attention. The key to self-mastery is learning to respond to these signals with intention, rather than being controlled by them. To illustrate this, let's use an example from the world of sports. Consider an athlete in a high-stakes game. Perhaps it's a crucial basketball match, with the score tied and only a few seconds left on the clock. The athlete has two options. They can let their nerves take over, causing them to make a hasty, irrational move, or they can pause, breathe, and focus on the present moment, trusting in their training and the clarity of their decisions. In that moment, emotional control is the difference between success and failure. The athlete's ability to stay grounded and not be overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment is what allows them to perform at their best. The same applies to our daily lives. When we allow our emotions to control us, we become reactive, impulsive, and subject to the whims of external circumstances. But when we practice emotional control, we become resilient in the face of adversity. Here's a practical exercise to start building emotional control. The next time you feel a wave of frustration or anger, instead of reacting immediately, pause for 5 seconds. Take a deep breath, notice the physical sensations in your body and ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me? What do I really need right now? This short pause allows you to shift from a reactive state to a reflective one. Self-mastery isn't about perfecting your emotional responses right away, it's a continuous practice. Over time, you'll find that your emotional resilience increases. You'll become less easily triggered, more centered in your thoughts, and better able to handle life's challenges with grace. Emotional control isn't just about keeping your cool in tough situations, it's about mastering your internal world so that you can approach life with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The more you practice emotional control, the more you reclaim your freedom from external circumstances. The role of expectations, how they shape our emotional responses. Our expectations play a pivotal role in how we experience and react to the world around us. Expectations are the silent architects of our emotional states. When our expectations align with reality, we feel content. But when reality deviates from our expectations, we feel disappointment, anger, or frustration. This is a crucial insight in understanding the Stoic philosophy of emotional control. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, taught that much of our suffering comes from unrealistic or rigid expectations about how the world should be, rather than accepting it as it is. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, Epictetus famously said. This statement highlights the central idea that our emotional well-being is tied to how we perceive events, not the events themselves. Consider the following example. You plan a day to relax, perhaps a peaceful Sunday afternoon, and everything is set except for one thing: your phone breaks. You might have been looking forward to spending your day offline, unwinding, and enjoying some personal time. But now, instead of relaxation, you feel frustration building as you try to fix it. Your expectation that the day would go smoothly has been shattered, and suddenly the phone becomes the center of your world. However, this is where the Stoic practice of reframing can come in handy. Instead of fixating on the disruption, ask yourself, why am I so upset by this? Is my happiness really dependent on the phone? What could I do with this time instead? The moment you shift your focus from the phone's failure to the possibilities available to you, your emotional response changes. We can apply this practice to various aspects of our lives. Maybe you've planned a big event and it's rained on the day of the outdoor celebration. Instead of letting disappointment take over, the Stoic approach would be to reflect on the situation and ask, how can I make the most of this? What can I learn from this unexpected turn? Perhaps the rain gives you the opportunity to connect more deeply with others indoors, or it might offer a peaceful moment for self-reflection. The key lesson here is that our expectations often set us up for disappointment because we are expecting things to happen in a specific way. Life doesn't work that way. By letting go of rigid expectations and accepting that reality will sometimes unfold unpredictably, we gain emotional freedom. To practice this, try examining your own expectations. Are they realistic? Are you setting yourself up for frustration by expecting things to go exactly as planned? The next time reality doesn't meet your expectations, instead of reacting with anger or disappointment, take a moment to reframe your perspective. What else can you do to embrace the situation as it is? The importance of letting go. Freeing yourself from the weight of the past. One of the greatest sources of emotional unrest is our attachment to the past. Whether it's past grievances, old wounds, or memories of past failures, we often carry these burdens with us, dragging them into every new situation and relationship. The Stoics understood that letting go of the past is essential for true peace, not because it's easy, but because holding on to the past only prevents us from embracing the present. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote extensively about the importance of living in the moment. He said, "You could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say and think." This idea of being present in the now is critical when it comes to managing our emotions. If we're constantly replaying past events in our minds, we're not fully experiencing the present moment. Our energy is stuck in the past, and that energy cannot be used to create a better future. Let me share a real-life example. A man named Tom had been deeply hurt by a betrayal from a close friend years ago. Despite the passage of time, Tom found himself reliving that event in his mind again and again, even in moments of peace. He would often ruminate on what his friend had done and how it affected him, and as a result, he felt angry, resentful, and disconnected from others. The betrayal continued to affect his relationships and emotional state long after the event itself. Tom decided to apply the Stoic principle of letting go. Instead of dwelling on the betrayal, he focused on his own role in his life and how he could move forward with integrity and peace. He realized that holding on to the past was only giving his former friend power over his emotions. By choosing to forgive, not for his friend's sake, but for his own freedom, Tom released the weight of that emotional burden. His energy shifted from anger and resentment to peace and growth. Letting go is not the same as forgetting. It doesn't mean erasing painful memories or pretending that they didn't happen. It means stopping the cycle of rehashing old wounds and allowing yourself to move forward. The past is a part of you, but it doesn't have to define your present or your future. To practice this Stoic concept of letting go, ask yourself, what am I still holding on to from the past that no longer serves me? Whether it's anger from a past argument, regret over a missed opportunity, or guilt about something you can't change, consider how much energy you're dedicating to these memories. What would happen if you chose to release them? It's not about pretending the past didn't hurt, but about choosing to stop carrying it with you. Let go of the weight, and you'll find yourself moving more freely, more peacefully, and with a sense of inner strength that doesn't depend on the past. Emotional intelligence. the intersection of Stoicism and modern psychology. We've talked about Stoic practices such as emotional control, letting go of the past, and the power of self-reflection. But how do these ancient ideas align with modern psychological concepts? Interestingly, the Stoics were far ahead of their time in terms of emotional intelligence and self-awareness, both of which are crucial for mental well-being today. Emotional intelligence, EQ, as defined by psychologist Daniel Goleman, is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and influence our own emotions as well as the emotions of others. One of the core components of EQ is self-regulation, which is precisely what Stoicism is all about. Stoic philosophers understood that our emotions, while natural, don't have to dictate our actions. Instead, we can train ourselves to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Modern psychology backs this up. Research has shown that people with high emotional intelligence are better at managing stress, building positive relationships, and making better decisions. They don't allow their emotions to control them. Instead, they use emotional awareness as a tool for growth. This mirrors the Stoic principle of not allowing external events to shake our inner peace. Let's break this down using a real-life example. Imagine a person, let's call her Jane, who works in a high-pressure environment. She has a demanding boss, tight deadlines, and sometimes a toxic office culture. At first, Jane was overwhelmed by stress and frustration. She found herself snapping at colleagues and feeling drained by the constant pressure. However, after learning about emotional intelligence and applying Stoic principles, she decided to make a change. She began practicing self-awareness, paying attention to how she felt when certain situations triggered negative emotions. Jane realized that a lot of her stress stemmed from trying to meet unrealistic expectations, both her own and those of her boss. Instead of immediately reacting with anger or frustration, she practiced pausing and reflecting. Why am I feeling this way? Is this something I can control? What is the best response? Over time, Jane became much better at regulating her emotions. When stresses arose, she no longer responded with panic or irritability. Instead, she could choose her response with greater clarity. For example, when her boss made another unreasonable request, she would calmly assess whether it was something she could manage, and, if not, she would communicate her boundaries effectively rather than internalizing the stress or bottling up her feelings. In this sense, Jane embodied both Stoic and modern psychological principles of emotional intelligence. She understood her emotions, she managed them instead of letting them control her, and she chose to act in a way that aligned with her values. The key takeaway here is that emotional intelligence and Stoicism complement each other perfectly. By practicing self-awareness, self-regulation, and mindful responses, we can become more emotionally resilient and navigate life's challenges with greater ease. So how can you integrate emotional intelligence into your daily life using Stoic principles? Start by practicing awareness of your emotional responses. The next time you feel triggered, pause and reflect. What is the emotion telling you? Is it something that can be managed? And how can you choose your response rather than react instinctively? The path to true peace. Choosing presence. Overreaction. As we reach the end of our journey through Stoic philosophy and emotional mastery, the most important takeaway is this. True peace isn't about controlling the external world, it's about mastering your internal world. The Stoics knew that life is full of challenges, unpredictability, and people who will test your patience. But they also understood that the power to maintain peace lies in how we respond to those challenges, not in the challenges themselves. Let's bring this full circle with one final crucial practice: choosing presence over reaction. When faced with a stressful situation, our automatic reaction might be to escalate, to get upset, defend ourselves, or act out of fear or anger. But Stoic wisdom teaches us that the most powerful response is often no response at all, at least not immediately. Instead of reacting, the Stoic approach encourages us to pause, reflect, and choose how to respond. This might mean simply breathing and stepping back from the situation, giving ourselves the space to decide whether this is something we should engage with at all. Think of it like this. Life is like a river, constantly flowing, constantly changing. We can choose to swim against the current, trying to control every bend and wave. Or we can choose to find peace by going with the flow, adjusting our sails and choosing how we navigate the journey. The Stoics knew that peace comes from acceptance, not resignation, but an understanding that we cannot control everything, but we can control our reactions. Let's revisit a personal example to wrap this up. Imagine you're caught in traffic, running late for an important meeting. The frustration builds as you glance at the clock, knowing you're going to be late. Your first impulse might be to react, complain, honk the horn, fume internally. But if you apply the Stoic practice, you would pause, take a deep breath, and choose your response. Maybe you use the time to listen to an inspiring podcast, reflect on a personal goal, or simply breathe and focus on staying calm. Instead of allowing the situation to dictate your mood, you regain control of your peace. The truth is, we will always face obstacles, but how we handle them is within our power. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice Stoic resilience, to choose clarity over chaos, and to respond from a place of wisdom, not impulsiveness. So the final question for you is this: how will you respond when life tests you? Will you be reactive, controlled by the whims of the world around you? Or will you practice the art of emotional self-mastery, choosing calm, clarity, and peace regardless of the external circumstances? Remember, peace doesn't come from waiting for life to be perfect. It comes from choosing to find peace amidst the imperfection. It comes from practicing self-awareness, emotional control, and embracing the present moment, no matter what life throws your way. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Stoicism and emotional mastery. If you've found these insights helpful, I encourage you to reflect on them daily and begin implementing them in your life. True peace is an ongoing practice, and each day is a new opportunity to strengthen your inner resilience. Stay grounded, stay growing, and remember, the strength to lead a peaceful life is already within you. Hey, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful and want more content on personal growth, Stoic philosophy, and living with purpose, make sure to hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Just click the button and let's keep growing together. See you in the next video.